What's up, my gems and jewels? You don't know me from anywhere, but my name is Diamond Surge, and I welcome you back to Interactive Horror Stories. Let's have some fun. Alright, so the story of the day is called Crystal Skull. So let's get right into it. Let's see what this story's about. Ooh, this looks cool. You are a king who is loved by his people. You have a serious problem, though. Your only child, Juliana, has an incurable disease and she is dying. You hear about a crystal skull which can cure illnesses and let people have visions. It is brought to your palace from the continent of America, but your man warns you that the skull might be cursed. Will the crystal skull bring health to the princess or doom? I'm thinking both. It's going to be two endings. It's going to heal her and it's going to doom her depending on how I treat the skull. You got to be nice and tender with it. Being a king is hard. Being a good king is even harder. You know this well as the sole ruler of a European kingdom in the age when America is discovered. It has been 25 years since you ascended the throne. Your subjects are content with your rule. Your country is in peace and the people are wealthy, but there is something wrong with your life. First of all, let me just say, it's very good that the people are content with the way we're ruling. That's very good. Your daughter, Juliana, is ill. She's only 18 years old, and she has gotten illness that nobody could cure yet. Princess is dying, and she is your only child, and heir to the throne. Every doctor you could find tried to cure her. You have tried almost everything. Almost. You have been informed about a miraculous artifact unearthed in the continent of America. It is a human skull made of crystal. It amazes the scholars because no method is known to carve up such an excellent shape of a skull out of crystal. The skull doesn't belong to the world that you know, but to an ancient civilization that has been lost. But what amazes the scholars is not just the impossible creation. The skull is told to bring miracles to whom touches it with their bare hands. Some people tell that they saw visions from the future. Some tell that they saw how the human race has originated. And some tell that the skull can cure their illnesses. Those couldn't be cured with the medication available to your era. Naturally, you ordered your best men to bring the miraculous skull to the palace. It's midnight now. You're in Juliana's chamber. She's lying in her bed, holding your hand as you sit by her bed. No candles are lit inside. Full moon enlightens the princess's chamber, shining on her long blonde hair and blue eyes. She is too weak. Her skin is pale. She has under eye bags, showing her illness. You already suffered the loss of your wife 10 years ago. Now you can't stand seeing your only daughter slowly die. Juliana asks you with a soft voice, "Father, am I going to die?" Eventually, yes. She sighs. "It is so sad. I am a princess with ambitions to become a ruler. And it is certainly not about personal gain. I want to continue what you do. I want to be a fair ruler and make our people happy." She continues, "But I think this is life. Death conquers all." The door of the chamber is knocked on. The servants generally don't disturb the royal family members at night, so it must be something important. "Come in!" A brunette boy, one of your servants, gets inside the chamber with politeness. He looks at you and says, "Your Majesty, the artifact has been brought. You have been waiting for this moment for a long time." Okay, kiss your daughter and say, "I will come back." After you kiss Juliana's forehead and say, "I will come back," she brings your hand to her pale lips and kiss it. Then you leave Juliana alone in her chamber. At the exit of Juliana's chamber, you see Sir William, one of the knights those were appointed with the task of bringing the ancient skull. He is a strong man with black hair and a round beard. He wears gloves and holds a bag. "Your Majesty," he says, and kneels before you. Signal him to stand up. "Let's go to my study chamber." Sir William follows you as you walk to your study chamber. The chamber is well lit with silver candelabrums. I've never heard that word before. All the furniture are classy. It is a king's study room after all. There is only one chair. It is for you. You sit on it. Sir William stands by you and slowly pulls the artifact from his bag. You push the books on the study desk to open space for the artifact. "Here it is," he says, and gently puts the crystal skull on the study desk. The skull is truly a masterpiece if it is crafted by humans. All the details of a human skull are imprinted with care on a raw crystal. Lights coming from the candles are refracted inside the crystal, gaining various colors of a rainbow. It's magnificent, but you sense something sinister, something that doesn't belong to our world. Let's see. I'm gonna ask them if they touch it. Did you knights touch the skull? Yes, we did touch the skull with our bare hands, and we all had visions. We took glances from our futures. Some of us saw how they will die. Some of us saw our grandchildren. He continues, but maybe we shouldn't have touched the skull. You're right. The day we were about to leave, a native man came to us. He looked like the chief of his tribe. He knew little of our language, but he shouted some words that we could understand. Cursed! No touch! So we haven't touched the skull with our bare hands again. I'm thinking one time is all you need, but let's see. I know that our princess needs to find a cure. I also know that we received reliable information about the magical powers of the skull when it comes to incurable diseases. But Your Majesty, I have got a very bad feeling about this skull. I believe that the wise decision is to throw the skull to the sea. Okay, I will trust your insight. Let's do it. I am glad that you agree with me, Your Majesty. So he packs the crystal skull back into the bag. You two get outside the palace and get on your horses to ride to the docks. When you reach the docks, Sir William finds stones and fills the bag with it. Then he throws the bag, your only hope for curing Juliana, to the bottom of the dark sea. I know how hard it must be, but maybe this is the best for all of us. You hope that he is right. The end. There are 3 endings this time. Okay, get rid of the skull. Ooh, okay, so we got rid of it the first time. So now this time, we're definitely going to give it to her. Okay, so we're back. I can't let Juliana die. She will touch the skull. The knight sighs. As you wish, Your Majesty. But if you are going to bring the skull to her, I wish you would wear gloves. Okay, so the third option, we're going to touch it ourselves, but let's just wear the gloves this time. You look for gloves around the study chamber. Sir William puts his own gloves off. I think you wish Juliana to touch the skull as soon as possible. Let's not wait for servants to find your gloves, he says, and gives you them. You wear the gloves and hold the crystal skull with your covered hands. Let me bring the skull to Juliana. You thank Sir William for his services and let him go. You carry the skull to Juliana's chamber. You enter her chamber and see that she hasn't slept yet. She rises up and sits on her bed. She looks at the skull in awe. It looks marvelous and scary, she says. You approach Juliana and let her touch the skull. As Juliana touches the skull, she closes her eyes and doesn't react to anything in the external world. You understand that she is having a vision. After 10 seconds, she opens her eyes with a gasp. I saw things! I don't know how to describe them. They were pitch black creatures. So ugly. Their eyes, they were red as flames and they all stared at me. She starts to cry. Please keep this thing away from me. Please. And I want to be alone. So you decide to keep the skull in your study room and let your daughter sleep. After this tiring day, you go to your chamber. There are no guards at the door. You just trust everybody in the palace. You are a loved king. The furniture are luxurious in this chamber too. You take a glance at your reflection in the mirror. So let's examine ourselves. You take pride in how you look. You are a middle-aged man, but you still look as handsome as you were young. Your looks are an important factor that makes you a charismatic leader, besides being fair and wise. Okay, let's sleep. You wear your nightgown and get in your bed. It is a bed for 2 people, but you haven't slept with anyone since your wife passed away. Dang, that sucks. 10 years ago. You have a secret that you keep from everyone. Sometimes you hug the second pillow in your bed as if it was someone you love. You do this since your childhood. Nobody needs to know it. It doesn't take long for you to fall asleep. Father. You wake up to Juliana's voice. She gently holds your shoulder. You look at her. She has a happy smile on her face. Her skin is not pale, but saturated with life. She no longer has bags under her eyes. I feel wonderful. She takes a few steps back and starts dancing. You laugh with happiness, stand up and hug her. Juliana walks in the corridor of the palace, dancing and laughing. You and the people of the palace are very happy to see her this way. She used to be like a ghost before. You plan a feast and invite all the lords of the kingdom. A few days later, every lord arrives to the capital city to celebrate the health of the princess. At the feast, Juliana is the center of everyone's attention. She talks with everyone joyfully, makes jokes, makes people laugh. When the feast is over and it's midnight, everybody goes to the chambers reserved for them. You accompany Juliana to her chamber. You put a kiss on her forehead before letting her sleep. Then you go to your own chamber and fall asleep in peace. Oh no, please don't tell me she's gonna die. You wake up to the sound of the knocking on your chamber's door. It is still night. You wonder who dared to wake you up at this hour. Let's open it. It's the same brunette boy who had informed you about the arrival of the skull. Your Majesty, I am deeply sorry for disturbing you at this hour, but there is something wrong. There are laughing sounds coming from the princess's chambers. It's her voice, but it doesn't sound normal. Let me check it. You walk to Juliana's chamber. Like the servant said, hysterical laughters come from inside. You decide to enter. You see Juliana at the balcony of her chamber, facing back you. What? She laughs under the pale moon. You approach her and put your hand on her shoulder. She turns back to you. Her face is normal, smiling. Just when you were going to ask if she was okay, she responds, I know it looks funny, Father, but I am fine. Please leave me alone, she says. She stops laughing, gets in her bed with a smile on her face. You decide to leave her alone. You go back to your chamber. You can't sleep. You feel something is wrong. So wrong. The door of your chamber opens. There is only one person who is allowed to enter without knocking on the king's door, so you understand that it is Juliana who entered. Like you guessed, you see your daughter's silhouette. She closes the door and approaches you with a smile on her face. Juliana? She leans down to you, gently pulls the other pillow that you don't use. Juliana is dead, she says, pushing the pillow on your face. You struggle, but whoever or whatever is trying to kill you is too strong. The king is dead! Long live the king! She shouts. Why is your own daughter committing patricide, regicide, and referring herself as king rather than queen? That doesn't make sense at all. That is the end of your reign and life. The end. There are 3 endings. Regicide. I don't know if I'm saying that word right, but okay, so we die by our own daughter. Interesting. And now, we're gonna touch the skull with our own hands. Okay, here we are, so let's touch it. As you are about to touch the skull, Sir William holds your hand and prevents you from touching the skull. Your Majesty, I think I need to tell you something about the skull before you touch it. Okay, so we heard about this. Curse, no touch. I can't let Juliana die. She will touch it, and then I'm gonna take it to her with our bare hands. Touch it with bare hands. You ignore the knight. Touch the skull with bare hands and instantly find yourself in a vision. In your vision, you are in the middle of a ritual. There are about 100 naked humans around you, forming a circle whose center is you. They are all prostrating themselves, worshiping you. It's nighttime. The plain area is enlightened with torches and stars. You see a stepped pyramid nearby. It is made of huge stone blocks. You realize that you are the crystal skull. You can't see yourself, but you're completely aware of what you are. These naked people are worshiping you, the crystal skull. Then the vision changes. Now it is not night, morning. It is raining like hell. There is a huge flood. Unclothed, red-skinned humans scream and get drowned because of the disastrous torrent, and you, as the skull, drift away. You open your eyes and turn back to who you really are, the good king. Sir William looks at you. I'm gonna tell him the vision. You tell him what you have seen in your vision. Yes, the skull is mysterious. I can't understand it. I hope it doesn't bring harm to you or Princess, Your Majesty, he says. Let me bring the skull to Juliana. Okay, so we bring it and she touches it. She holds the skull, rubs her hands around it. Nothing happens. Is something supposed to happen? She asks, then gives the skull back. Then she continues. Let's wait for tomorrow morning. Maybe it shows its effects then. So you decide to leave Juliana alone and let her sleep. The skull will be staying in your study chamber. That's weird. Okay, so let's just go to sleep. You wake up in the morning. Something is wrong. You can't move your arms. No, not only arms, you can't move any part of your body. You are paralyzed. Then suddenly your body starts to move involuntarily. It stands up without your consent. Your feet bring you to the mirror. You see your face in the mirror. You are terrified, but there is a grin on your face. You are no longer in control of your body. You are merely a bystander of what it does. That's so scary. It brings you to the throne room with confident steps. Soldiers salute you, to be exact, it, as you enter. It sits on the throne and shouts with your voice, "Bring me my daughter!" You watch guards accompany Juliana as she comes into your presence. It shouts, "I don't want her to suffer anymore. Kill her!" Juliana is shocked. What? Father, please! She is not the only surprised one in the room. Everybody looks at each other with shock. It shouts, "You heard your king! Execute her!" You try to shout, but your screams are buried inside the head of the king. Juliana gets on her knees and cries in despair, but it's in vain. Two black masked decapitators come into your presence. One holds the crying blonde girl, the other holds the sword. Oh my gosh. You can do nothing but watch as your precious daughter gets decapitated. Her head falls down and rolls to the throne. Floor gets filled with her blood. Oh my gosh. Days pass. It continues to control your body. You mourn for your daughter inside the body that once belonged to you. You watch it rule your country with an iron fist. It orders all the churches be burnt and priests to be hanged. Oh my gosh. Of course your people uprise against the new king. It suppresses the revolt with violence. Anyone who stood against the king gets tortured. Eyes are poked. Skins are flayed. Soon, it orders people to worship it as a deity. Wow. The God King declares war against other countries. It doesn't take long for the other countries form an alliance against the God King. In a fateful battle in your capital, the God King loses his horse. The evil king gets killed while desperately searching for a horse. And this is how your soul finally breaks free to heaven to see your family once again. The end. Wow. Die like Macbeth. That's so crazy. So, ending 1, Juliana gets taken over by this crystal skull, whatever it is. Ending 2... Wait, no. Ending 1, we threw the skull back into the river. And then ending 2 is when the princess gets overtaken by it. And then we get overtaken by it. Wow. I couldn't imagine waking up and being able to see through my eyes, but I'm not in control of anything. And I just feel my body. Like it's like you're just watching and it's just, you're a brain at this point. I guess he could still feel things. I don't know. It didn't say he could feel things. It just said, like, you know, he was a bystander in his own body. But I want to see the other dialogue options. Since we got all the endings, I'm just going to go back and see what else the characters can say. Okay, so when she says, "Father, am I going to die?" I'm going to say, "I won't allow that." She smiles. "I know, Father, you are a mighty king. I know that you will do the best by your subjects and me." So really, we didn't even find a cure for her. It's either we throw away the skull, she gets decapitated, or she gets overtaken. So none of these are really happy endings. Okay, so now that the artifact is here, I'm not going to kiss her. Let's just go. Okay. So nothing happens there. So I'm going to say, "Did you knights touch the skull?" I'm going to ask him again. And then I'm going to say, "I can't let Juliana die. She will touch it." Let's wear the gloves and bring it to her. Okay. So now when we wake up, she's going to be changed. Okay, so somebody knocks on the door. Let's ignore it. "You can't sleep. You feel something is wrong. So wrong." Okay, so she comes in automatically without... Because I think the knocking was the brunette boy. But since we ignored it, she just comes in anyway. Okay, so I'm going to try to touch it. He says, his story. Give it to her. Okay, so let's touch it with our bare hands. I don't think it's going to matter if we tell him the vision. So let's just bring it to her again. And nothing's going to happen. So let's examine ourselves this time. Okay, same thing. Okay, yeah, same thing. So there's not much different this time, I think. So, all right, so we got all 3 endings. That one was pretty interesting, to be honest. We were a king, a good king at that. I like that. But there were no good endings. The first one, when we threw it back into the river, I mean, maybe, you know, we could have found another way for her. Or maybe she just continued to suffer until she died. We don't know. But that was fun. So that was another story, Crystal Skull. Next time, obviously, we're going to get to Evil Beneath the Ground. And so with that, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing in that order. If you have any game suggestions or story suggestions you want to see on this channel, please let me know in the comments below, and any feedback is always greatly appreciated. Until next time, peace. What? You pile of poop! I hate you! You son of a bee! I hate you! I hate you! I hate... What? But for some reason, he doesn't harm you, only the woman. Maybe it's erotic for him. Like, he's like, oh yeah.